Today on the Wild Way Home podcast, we're going to be talking about the deals that we make with ourselves and we don't even realize it. First, we have to start with a baseline. I need to make sure that everybody is starting from the same understanding. So we are going to begin with the operational definition that I outlined in my book and say what patterns even are, how they protect us, and what they're protecting. So patterns are not a list of types or diagnoses or fixed categories. They're not a diagnostic manual, and they shouldn't be treated like one. They're just strategies. They're once helpful ways of surviving that don't need to continue running the show, but they still do. And I want to break them down so that you can start thinking about the patterns in your life and recognizing how deep they run, how they impact your relationships, your decisions, your sense of self, and everything in between. And these patterns don't just live in romantic relationships, although romantic relationships reveal them the fastest because that's where we tend to get triggered the most. So it's the easiest starting point if you want to make the invisible visible. Patterns run across every domain of our lives. Now, to get into what the deal actually is, the deals that we make with ourselves, first we have to start with the pyramid. So if you conceptualize that at the base of this pyramid, we have where the pattern starts. This is the observable starting point. It's the trigger or the situation, the person, or the thing that sends us spiraling into the pattern. Maybe not spiraling all the time, but it starts the pattern. So from that base, next we go into the observable response or the observable part of the pattern, the thing that we do. Maybe we shrink. Maybe we over-explain. Maybe we overreact. Maybe we defend. Maybe we self-abandon. Those are all the behaviors that we do that we could see. And those behaviors over time reinforce the next layer, which is the identity. And then the deeper layer to that is the deal. That's the implicit deal that we are making with ourselves. Again, at the center of each pattern, that is the deal. And it's the quiet, often unconscious agreement that we're making with ourselves to avoid pain in the short term, even when it costs us more in the long run. And I'm going to say that again because it's really important. Your brain does not calibrate for what's going to make you happy. It doesn't care if something's going to be painful 6 months from now. It's looking from the lens of the nervous system of the here and now. How can I reduce pain, risk, and threat? Operationally, the definition is that the deal is the contract the system makes to reduce pain, risk, or threat in the immediate vicinity, even at a long-term cost. So that's why we stay in situations or hesitate to make decisions to get us out of something that's uncomfortable because it is not yet painful enough to move in the immediate. Maybe it's something that we know that we should do. Maybe it's a decision that we've been thinking about but we just can't seem to make because it's not painful enough yet in the moment. And when it does become painful enough, you will move. But until then, you just sit in the discomfort because the pain of change is greater than the pain of staying. So every deal follows the same structure. If I do X, I will avoid Y. Or if I do X, I will have Y. If I do X, some Y outcome will or will not happen. It's our way to try to perceive control over things. And because we have these deals and we make them and then we execute them over many situations, across many people, across many years, it becomes so reinforced that now I think that I have control over all of these things. I'm going to keep using that deal. So some of the common deals that we make to preserve attachment might look like, for example, in the pattern of I don't measure up, we might see if I defer to people who seem more confident, accomplished, or certain, I'll stay safe. So if I'm in a room of people that I have this relational hierarchy and I'm pitting myself and pedestaling them and I think that they're smarter or more experienced, I'm going to defer to them. I'm going to automatically assume that I'm wrong. And in order to keep myself safe, I outsource my authority to them. Or it might look like if I shrink a little, I won't be exposed as something that we don't want to be seen as. It might look like if I earn my place, I won't be rejected. If I don't ask for too much, I'll get to stay. If I let others lead, I won't embarrass myself. And so the core theme of the pattern I don't measure up is pedestaling others through comparison self-worth, minimization, and outsourced worth. In another pattern, if we look at be easy, another pattern that I've written out, it might be, if I don't say anything, this won't turn into a bigger thing. And by the way, that pattern's theme is shrinking. So you minimize yourself to maintain connection, stability, or peace. Safety in this pattern is maintained not by repair or honesty or boundary, but by disappearance. And so those deals might sound like, if I shrink a little, everybody stays regulated. If I don't add friction, I won't be a problem. If I don't ask for more, I won't be a burden. If I disappear a little, I can stay connected. And regardless of the pattern that it's a part of, the deal is the implicit, if I do X, Y will happen, Y will not happen. I will avoid or have this outcome. So then when we ever think about breaking the deal, or when we start to break the deal, it feels dangerous at first because it leaves us feeling exposed. Remember, that deal is there to protect the deeper meaning. It's usually the core wound or a core wound that's being pointed at and protected. And so the deal is carried out by the strategy. The strategy is how we execute the deal to protect the deeper meaning or the wound. So for example, in I don't measure up. So the deal might be, if I don't ask for too much, I'll get to stay. And the strategy is self-abandonment through deference. I gave away my authority in order to preserve my sense of worth. So that looks like minimization or comparison or deference. And it looks like self-policing or filtering. So monitoring what I'm saying to avoid future embarrassment, to avoid future rejection, just to name a few examples. And we see this all the time in relationships. That's how over time you slowly sacrifice your needs because you're self-policing, you're filtering, you're trying to make sure something lands well because you're concerned about somebody else's reaction or you don't feel good enough. And there's this center of unworthiness where you're pitting yourself and pedestaling someone else. And there's other patterns that play into how you end up in a relationship with unmet needs. But when we're looking at the I don't measure up pattern, if I'm constantly seeing my partner as better than me or smarter than me or more accomplished, I'm going to continually execute deals to protect my wounds of not feeling like I'm enough. I'm going to continually compensate. It's like another example of if you're texting somebody and you're editing what you want to say to make sure that it lands well, or to make sure that you're saying the right thing, or you want to have a chance with this person because you perceive them on some pedestal, you're editing yourself. You're not being your fullest self. And again, over time, that's how we get into situations where our needs aren't met. So all of this is there to protect the deeper meaning, the core wound. That's why we have the patterns. That's why we have the strategies and the deals. And going back to the I don't measure up pattern example, it points to a deeper meaning, a core wound. And for me, and for many of the clients that I've worked with in that pattern, that core wound is I am not enough. And therefore, the second order of that is, and other people are. So the beliefs will snowball and parade around wearing different masks. You start seeing it pop up in other areas of your life, wearing other faces in different situations, because that thread has run so deep and become so entangled into our identity that we've lost track of where it starts and ends. And that's why once you have an awareness of the pattern and you can make the invisible visible, you can start seeing where it's popping its head up, and you can start observing it through the pyramid and having the choice of choosing differently. You can observe what you want to do, what that pattern is telling you, what you're trying to protect, and choose differently because you realize I am enough. Or you realize whatever truth is there in place of the wound that you had. And I'll say you can outperform this, right? I didn't start working on this until a couple of years ago. I've been very successful and I just kept outperforming the pattern. And you can do that. But it's harder along the way because you run into so much internal resistance and limited self-belief. And there are people who can do that. But the majority of people, the pattern wins. The pattern has been reinforced over time, so they don't shoot their shot. They don't go for whatever goal they have. They don't take the chance. They don't ask the girl. They don't go for the job promotion. They don't speak up when they want to, because the pattern wins. And the pattern will be there running in the background until it's addressed. Because remember, for the pattern to keep operating and for the deal to stay alive, it needs the identity to function. So breaking the deal feels like danger because it feels like we're being exposed. So to give you another example, there's a pattern that I outlined that's I can't be wrong. And the essence of that pattern is being wrong or corrected publicly is like getting pantsed in public. It's humiliating because it points to their deepest wound of I'm dumb, or I'm not enough, or I'm always wrong, or whatever phrase they use to come to the conclusion that I can't be wrong protects me. And so the strategies that you'll see for that pattern that they use to compensate might be defending, interrupting, over-explaining, justifying, correcting, perfectionism, all of these things, because they have built an identity and personality and habits around compensating for that wound. So that pattern shows up over and over. And then when someone does correct them or show them that they're wrong, it's this burning embarrassment and humiliation. Whereas other people who don't have that pattern can be corrected and just move on with their day. And it's not that anything is wrong with that person. They are not broken. It's just that their operating system has been conditioned and recalibrated over and over to have this pattern running the show. So they just have to recalibrate the operating system and understand the pattern. And then when they can see the pattern kick off and go through, they can make a decision to choose differently. I hope this helps. This is the kind of stuff that I walk my clients through so that they can overcome their patterns and step into the fullest version of themselves that they've always known but never fully met. I'll see you on the next pod.